organizing. All right, we're going to have Brian come up next, and this time I'm organized. I'm going to read a little thing about Brian. So as I mentioned, Brian and I have known each other for many years. So Brian's topic today is returning to wholeness by integrating all of your aspects. Brian is a wellness leader and facilitator who has helped hundreds of people around the world lead more balanced and meaningful lives. With a background in neuroscience and more than 15 years experience teaching and practicing yoga, meditation, mindfulness, and different healing modalities, Brian is able to synthesize modern scientific knowledge with ancient wisdom to help his clients get the results they desire. He has a podcast called Conscious Action Podcast, and he also works or runs the workshop co-working space. Is that right?
I work there.
He works there in Ponsonby. So here we go. I give you Brian Berneman.
Thank you. Thank you, Nat. I'm just going to get this so that I can actually record this. Thank you, Nat, and thank you everyone for being here. I'm going to actually start by inviting you to close your eyes. And I'm just going to invite you to take a couple of deep breaths. With each deep breath that you take, giving yourself the permission to be here, now, present, in your body. Just noticing, how does your inner landscape look like at this moment? Without judging it, just noticing. Are there any sensations? Are there any thoughts? Allowing whatever it is that is happening. And when you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes and come back. And thank you for sharing that space with me. I always like to start the spaces by actually being present, by giving ourselves the permission to let go of whatever it is that came before and to be able to be here. There's so much in our lives that is taking us everywhere, so just taking moments, it's so important. And for this talk, I wanted to talk a little bit about wholeness. And actually, so many things that Joe, you talked about before were things that I was going to share, so I'm just going to skip them. You already heard them. So I'm going to use some of them, but I'm going to add more things. And I think one of the biggest things for me with understanding wholeness comes back to, are you whole or not? Do you believe that you're whole or not? And at our core, at our essence, we're all whole. We're all perfect. We're all complete. But are you experiencing that? That's the question. Because the most important thing is not what I believe, it's what I'm experiencing based on my beliefs. So if I believe that, as an example, the world is beautiful, is that my everyday life experience? Can I see everything that is happening from that beautiful lens? Most likely no. Like, there's moments in the day that it's like, that wasn't good, or that's actually really bad. Which means that we are not able to actually hold most of our beliefs all of the time to be true. And my invitation a lot of times, and this has been part of my path, is understanding there's so many different aspects of myself. There's so many different parts of myself and my day. And how can I integrate all of that? That is the key for me. So, how many of you believe that you are your body? Like the physical body? Some of you believe a little bit. are you here not in your body? So partly you are your body. That might not be the whole truth, but it is the truth. Are you just the spirit? Are you just the mind? Is such a thing as mind, or is mind always connected to everything else? We have a tendency to separate everything because it's easier to work with things. It's easier to say, oh, we have a mental health crisis now. Yes, that's true. Yet, it's a whole crisis. It's not just one aspect of ourselves. So for me, growing up, I had this beautiful childhood. I had wonderful parents. I still have beautiful parents. And they are the ones that started me on this path. And I remember that I felt like, life was pretty good. Yet I was super stressed out when I was a kid. I couldn't find my place. But anytime that I was going back home, my parents would ask how I was feeling. And I was always like, I'm doing great. And my parents would stop me and they're like, how are you actually? And I'm like, I'm doing great. And they would always ask me, are you repressing? Are you suppressing? And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Until I went to the first Tibetan yoga class, and it was the first time in my life that I actually felt my body, and I actually felt my feelings. And I was like, oh wow, I've actually been repressing without knowing that I was doing that. And that started to give me an understanding of this other part of my life, this other aspect that I didn't know about, and I had no language to explain as well. And I started to feel, you mentioned empath before, I'm quite empathetic. I can feel what people are feeling. And it's not just that I'm putting myself in their place. I'm literally feeling what they're feeling. But I had no way of dealing with it. I had no way of processing it or communicating it. And this is one of the key things for me of being able to spend time with myself. To spend time with all of my parts. To spend time with, as you mentioned, that little boy, to spend time with my family, to spend time with learning about all of those that came before. I come from a Jewish background. My grandpa escaped from the Second World War. And for a long time, I had this really bad relationship with my grandpa. And I was doing one of the tools that I love, which is family constellations. I was having a family constellation session with my teacher, and he basically said that because I had that rejection towards my grandpa, I was rejecting everything else that came from the positive side of that. The fact that he escaped, the fact that he was resilient, the fact that he was able to create a new life in Argentina, all of that were parts that I was neglecting. And that's going with me. Everything that came before us is going with us. Unless we're conscious about it, and we choose what to keep, and we choose what to allow. So when something is happening in our lives, I have the tendency of being equanimous with everything. There's no such thing as good or bad. Things just are. My lens might not tell me that. My colored glasses might tell me something different. Yet, if I stay with the different energies of what's happening, if I can actually process what's happening, that doesn't have an impact on me. I'm not carrying that with me. This is one of the biggest things that we have a tendency to do. As we are not fully feeling, as we are not fully integrating what's happening and processing what's happening, we are taking that with us. And one of the main things that I have focused on for many years on myself, and one of the main things that I focus with a lot of the people that I work with, is understanding our blockages. How many of you have blockages? How many of you have hundreds of them? Yes. So we all have lots of blockages. A lot of times I'm saying to some of my clients, like, we are just walking blockages. We are not actual people. We are blockages. And that is the lens through which we are living our lives. So when we have all of these different aspects of ourselves, we have our mind, we have our body, we have our spirit, we have our family person, our friendship person, we have our work person, we have like all of these different aspects of ourselves. How are we integrating all of that, and how are we allowing all of that to be experienced? And what are we doing to work with all of these blockages that we have that are in the way for us to start to integrate all of that? Because as we keep on compartmentalizing our life, we keep on compartmentalizing ourselves as well. And we are not separate. Everything is the same. When we keep on separating with others as well, that's not true. There's no separation here. That's an illusion. How can I hold both things? I'm seeing you here. Like, there's some space in between us. So we are separate, but we are not at the same time. How can I hold that at the same time? And how can I work to understand, to integrate all of these aspects of myself? This is one of the keys that I feel a lot of times that it's so important to understand. The fact that we are not separate, and all of these things that we are trying to separate in our lives, that is creating an issue for us. Because we are one. There's no Brian that is like going to work and another person that is at home. Like, there's just me. So if I am trying to all of the time put these barriers and put these blockages in there, then I'm not allowing myself to be there fully and to integrate and come back to that place, which is that I'm whole, that I'm perfect. I might not believe it all of the time, because again, conditioning, we have so much stuff in there and so many blockages, but coming back to that place, and this is why the process of healing is so important. The process of going back in time, working with our childhood, working with those that came before, working with those aspects of ourselves that we have neglected, that we don't love, that we are not looking at, all of that is so important to be able to return to that place of wholeness. That for me is, when I'm working with healing, is the recognition of I'm already whole. And all that I'm doing is coming back to that place. There's no me going to wholeness or me trying to reach that place. I'm already that. So if you're already that, it's easier to get back there. This is one of the things that when I spent many years practicing Tibetan Buddhism. I lived for a few years in the middle of a mountain in a Tibetan Buddhist retreat center, learning and learning and learning. And in the Buddhist tradition, Buddhahood or enlightenment is not something that you reach, it's something that you already are. Which means that it's easier to get there because you already are there. There's nowhere to go. All that we need to do is get all of the things that are in the way out. Get all of the veils, all of these blockages out of the way. And that is one of the things that when my teacher once told me, fall in love with finding your blockages. That has been the main practice for me. Finding my blockages. Because my full potential, my wholeness, my perfection is in there. If I actually am able to work and integrate all of those aspects, all of those blockages, I'll come back to the essence of who I am, which is that love, which is that wholeness, that perfection, that Buddhahood, whichever word we want to use, whatever resonates with you, that is your true essence. So it's so much simpler to go back to where we are, knowing that what we are seeking is already here. That's so much simpler than being like, oh, I need to go and climb that huge mountain that is there, that at the end of it is wholeness. No, that's not that. It's in. And when we are able to understand how to be with what is, not trying to change things, not trying to manipulate things, how can we be with what is? one of the key things with this as well, for me, and you mentioned, Joe, before, raising the vibration. Raising vibration is great. That's something so important. Raising vibration starts going down. Like just like the trees, like you need those strong roots to be able to then grow up, to be able to start to flourish. When we understand that is the most important thing is going deep. Whether that deep means down, in, out, however that looks for you, the depth of experience is key. And then from that place, once we connect to that place, we start to expand. But that just happens. We don't even need to do that. When we're able to stay in that place, strong, where we are, standing, in our, what a lot of times I connect with the word or the seat of consciousness. That's my place. That's my center. If I remember to stay there, everything else will come. Everything else will happen. And I'm in this beautiful dance with the world and the universe of co-creation and with all of you. Like I'm not here by myself. One of the aspects that I need to integrate and to work with is you as well. You are part of me. I'm part of you. We're all part of the same thing. I don't live in a vacuum. So one of the key things a lot of times, I talk a lot of times, not so much now, about balance. Finding balance. How does that look like for you? How does that look like for you internally? How does that look like with the people around you? And one of the very interesting things is, if you're well, if you're balanced, imbalance is going to come to you. So embrace that. Because that's a recognition that you can actually handle it. The people around you that are in balance, if you're balanced, they will come to you and they will try to bring all of their things to you because there's a recognition that you can take it. Energy all the time tries to balance this out. There's this giving and receiving constantly happening. And when we're able to actually recognize, like, I'm well, then things are going to come. So, embracing that. Being okay with people that are not well are going to come my way. People are going to bring me all of their shit and are going to try to bring me off my center. That is going to happen. And I can be with it. I can be with whatever the world is throwing at me because everything just is. So the more that I can allow myself to be with what is and to understand I'm more than just this one aspect of myself. I'm more than just what's happening at this moment. And I can embrace it all. I can allow. And then we can have this beautiful dance. And who doesn't like dancing, right? So my invitation for everyone is to keep on dancing and keep on embracing all of your parts. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. I forgot to ask you this, Joe. I usually come up and ask you guys. So Brian, like, how can people get in touch, and what have you got coming up, and how can we help? So what have you got coming up?
Coming up, I have a few workshops coming up. Some of them are actually not online, so they will be on the next few days. I'm doing a family constellation group healing day towards the end of November. I'm doing a few workshops, but mostly working one-on-one with people, so that's what's coming up.
Amazing. The other thing, you guys know I love connecting people. So as you sit here listening to the speakers, you're not just thinking, oh, I don't have a teenager, I don't need Joe. You're thinking, oh my gosh, my friend so-and-so, she's totally struggling. Oh, I need to connect her. Oh my goodness, so-and-so's in corporate and they need a wellness person. Oh my goodness. So just think of the connections and then you can get in touch and make it happen. All right, any burning questions for Brian? Or we'll save it for the panel. All right, nothing burning. Keep on dancing. Thank you, Brian. Keep on dancing.
Thank you.